What is the Monster Brand clothing line, and who is Rich, the Monster Phillips? My name's Rich. My nickname is the Monster, given to me by a guy named JD, really to compliment the biggest dude I've ever seen in person. You know, this guy would dwarf me in a heartbeat, but every time he'd see me, he'd be like, "What's up, Monster?" And it was endearing, man, for a guy that's bigger than you, as big as you one would be, you know, to call you something like that. It was definitely a compliment. I took it that way, and I ran with it, you know. So, you know, that's my nickname. But really and truly, you know, at the core of things, what is the Monster? To me, the Monster is, you know, unleashing the best version of you, you know? So my nickname might be the Monster, but there's a monster within each and every person. And, you know, we unleash the monster from ourselves when we seek to achieve that best version of ourselves. You know, we go out each and every day, you know, even when it be a rest day, you know, rest so you can rebuild bigger, you know, work out so you can tear it down harder, chase a dream, you know, sit and spend some time, you know, doing the digital side, planning animation, you know, doing things for the camera, for social media, whatever you need to do in order to like be the best version of yourself. You know, we are, you know, becoming the monster, you know, becoming that best version of ourselves. So to me, that's what the Monster is. So, you know, that might be my nickname, but my company is all about trying to help you be the best version of you and unleashing the monster within you, you know? And when I say that you can't outbeast the monster, I mean, you can't outdo the best version of you. Only you can be the best version of you. And if you're being the best version, you can't outbeast that. You can't outdo that. You can't outdo your best. And so that's all that me and my company and everything is about, is like being the best version of you. You know, so I spent most of my life, you know, being an athlete. You know, I grew up, I played baseball, I had a passion for it. Later on, I did some kickboxing when I was out in Vegas. I did some CrossFit, I did some powerlifting. I never really, you know, when I was boxing, I observed a diet, and my diet was starve and do tons of cardio. But most of my life I spent being overweight, from moderately overweight to, you know, morbidly obese at a point. I always lifted some weights. I always, you know, had a little bit of an athletic build about me, but, you know, most of my life I spent being overweight. I never really observed a true, like, you know, calorie diet, observing macros, counting my calories, none of that stuff, except for the little portion while I was boxing, and it was just starve. So really wasn't about being healthy or macros or anything until later in life. In my 40s, I later, you know, I was married. I had, my wife had got sick. I helped take care of her. Still working out here and there, but was focused a lot more energy on taking care of her than versus taking care of myself. She eventually passed away. When she did, I realized two things. First, I realized I was never gonna see my 70s at 348 pounds and 50% body fat, because that's where I was. You know, I still went to the gym, but I was extremely overweight. I wasn't observing any kind of like caloric diet or anything like that. So, you know, I realized that I was never gonna see my 70s like that. And B, I also realized that there was things that I wanted to do. We all had that bucket list, you know? One of the things, for example, that I wanted to do was like jump out of a plane. Well, you can't do that at 350 pounds. To do a tandem jump, you have to be 250 or less, and in some places 230 or less. So I decided to make a change, you know? I walked into a CrossFit gym. And I said, hey, look, you know, I need to lose 100 pounds. You know, I want to jump out of a plane. You know, fast forward 5.5 months later, I lost the weight. Me and my instructor jumped out, did a tandem jump together. Of course, we weren't tandem to each other, but we still both went up in the plane together, tied to our instructors. and we both tandem jumped. Fantastic, you know, lost the weight, got the competitive spirit back within myself. Couldn't keep my shoulder healthy, you know. If you look at me now, you'll be like, this guy was never a CrossFitter. You know, I'm a really, you know, big individual, and my body wants to be big, whether it be fat, whether it be muscle, you know. My body just wants to be a large man, and I had fought that for so much because I'd been overweight, and I just didn't want to be fat overweight. So, you know, after I lost the weight, I finally, for the first time, like sought out to like how to be like a healthy version of a giant, and I sought out being a bodybuilder. You know, somebody suggested like, hey, why don't you do bodybuilding? And I'm like, oh, you know, what about the loose skin? And they're like, well, what about, you know, the women that have had babies? And I was like, but you know, I got stretch marks, and like, don't all bodybuilders have stretch marks? And I'm like, touche. So I decided to do my first contest. I trained for 9 months. I stepped on stage. I took a second and 3/3 in the 4 different categories I entered. But by that point, man, I was bit by the bug. You know, being backstage with the tan and the oil and pumping up before, and just, you know, all the training and the dieting and everything that led me to that point, man, I was just enthralled with the whole process. You know, so I said, look, I'm gonna come back next year and I'm gonna win this show. Or win my category at very least. Maybe not win the show, but I'm gonna bring home a first place trophy. And so I trained for a whole nother year. You know, I backed my calendar up. I said, all right, here's where my show prep's gonna start. Here's where my bulk's gonna start. You know, et cetera, et cetera. You know, went over it with my coach, trained for a whole year, came back, won that show. Not the whole show, but I won my category. I also had a backup show just in case that was like 6-7 weeks later. So I brought an even better physique to that second show, won my category for that show as well. So now here I am, I'm qualified for nationals. I created my own clothing line. You know, my eventual dream is to like create and manufacture clothing that's for all body types. You know, the dad bods, the athletic bods, and the, you know, the more straight, lean body types. I want to create clothes for all people. Now, right now, I'm just a clothing reseller because that's where I got to start, you know. It's all branded. I make sure to use good quality clothing, and then it's got, you know, my logos and my love and my spirit within every single garment that I sell. And eventually, I want to reach the point where I'm fulfilling that dream. But really and truly, I'm just passionate about fitness. I'm passionate about making people the best version of themselves. And I'm passionate about you becoming the best version of you. So that's a little bit about the Monster brand clothing line, and the Monster himself, and the Monster within you, you know? So just remember, you can't outbeast the Monster. And I love you guys, and I really mean that, guys, girls, whatever, you know? I do love each and every brother and sister, you know, in our whole human race. One way or another, I love each and every one of you. See you guys soon.